In this video, I'll show you how to create a virtual host-only network under VMware. A host-only network allows you to create your own private network on your host computer. I'm going to go over an example using 3 different Linux distributions running at the same time, and I'm going to put them on the same network. So we've got the 3 computers running in a virtual machine, and their own separate virtual machines. So I've got Ubuntu 10 desktop, Mint 9, and Ubuntu 10.10 server. Now this example extends to any number of computers and operating systems. If you also had a Windows 7 VM, a Windows XP VM, or even a Mac, you could extend this example to all the different operating systems. So the steps are as follows. We're going to use the virtual network editor in VMware to create the network. Then you're going to go to VM and settings for each guest operating system. Here it would be Ubuntu 10 desktop, Mint 9, and Ubuntu 10.10 server. Then we're going to change the network to the appropriate VM net. And this question mark isn't a question, it's really a number that's going to be replaced with this question mark. That's just a grep expression meaning one character or one number. And you'll see what this means in just a minute. Then we'll go back to the running operating systems and check to see if the new configurations have taken effect. If they haven't, you'll just follow the steps that I run through in the video. The large gotcha is that since this is a host-only network and it's private running within VMware, you won't have access to an outside network like the internet. If you need to update, for example, your Linux distribution, you need to go back and change the network setting back to NAT, do your changes in your Linux distribution, and then reset the network setting back to the appropriate VM net and whatever number. Let's take a look at how to do that. So we see we have 3 Linux distributions running in their virtual machines. We have Ubuntu 10, 64-bit, we have Mint 9, and we have server. And what we're going to do is we're going to first go and create our virtual network. We go up to Edit, Virtual Network Editor, and I'm running this in Windows 7, so we're actually making changes to the virtual adapters that are running on our Windows 7's workstation. And so let's go in and let's create one. Notice that there's some have already been configured. Notice that there's from 0 to 9 different networks that you can use. Notice that some of them are already connected. You can use bridge networking, which connects the VMs directly to the external network, which uses your host's IP address. You can use network address translation, or you can use the host only, connect VMs internally in a private network. So let's go in and let's select VMnet 2, and you can select any of these you want. It doesn't really matter. They just need to be the same across all the different VMs that you're using. So let's select VMnet 2. Notice that it says host only, so we don't have to change that. And then we want to make sure we select connect a host to the virtual adapter to this network. And we can use local DHCP service to distribute the IP address to the VMs. We can select that. And now you see that VMnet 2 is host only, it's connected, it's enabled. If we want to check our DHCP settings, we can see we're going to be on a .10 something IP address. And so let's leave this at 10. Notice that the DHCP server will start doling out IP addresses at 128, and the ending IP address will be 254. Since we've only got 3 VMs, what we're going to have is one will be at 128, one will be at 129, and one will be at 130. So let's click OK, and then Apply. And now VMware is updating the VMnet 2. Stopping and starting the DHCP server. Loading the network configuration, and we click OK. Now what we need to do is go into each Linux distribution, go up to VM, Settings, and notice here I've got VMnet 5 set. Let's go in and let's change that. So I've selected network adapter. Notice that we've got selected custom specific virtual network. Let's change that to VMnet 2. We click OK. And let's do an ifconfig. And notice it says wired network. We're disconnected and you are now offline. And now eth0 connection has been established, and essentially what's happened is we should have our new virtual Ubuntu 64 should now be on the .10 subnet. And we see here now that our IP address for Ubuntu desktop is .10.128, which is exactly what we wanted. We now need to do that for Mint 9. Go up to VM, Settings, select Network Adapter, Custom Specific Virtual Network, VMnet 2, click OK. Now we should see the same message shortly. The wired network disconnected, and it will reconnect. It's established. Let's do an ifconfig. And now we're on .10.129. So we've got two computers on their host-only network. Let's go to server, which is going to be a little different. And let's go up to VM, Settings, Network Adapter, Custom Specific Virtual Network, VMnet 2. Let's click OK. And it's going to be a little different because we don't have the graphical interface here. So we're not going to get any message, but let's see if it's changed, because it probably hasn't. And so notice that this is a .1.130, and what we wanted was a 10.130. So what we need to do is bring the interface down and bring it back up. And first what we need to do is let's cat the file etc network interfaces. And you notice down here that we have two network interfaces set up. And this is a configuration file that's used to actually establish the network connections. We have a loopback, but more importantly we have eth0 down here. Note that this says auto. That means to automatically configure eth0. With the interface eth0 is going to use DHCP. We could create a static IP address by creating that in here, but let's go ahead and let's let DHCP establish the IP address. So now we need to bring the network interface card down. So ifdown eth0. That's my password. And now let's do a sudo ifup eth0. And now you see that the NIC is bound to 10.130, which is what we wanted. It stopped and started the SSH server. So let's just to make sure ifconfig. And now we're on the 10.130 subnet. And so now let's see if we can ping the other computers. 192.168.10.128. Okay, let's go. So let's see if we can ping .130. Okay, so we can ping our server. Let's see if we can ping Mint 9. We can. Let's see if we can go back from server. And we can. And let's ping 192.168.10.129. And we've got our network all set up. Let's say you need to update your system, or you need to install something. Recall that this is a virtual host-only network, so it doesn't have access to the internet right now. And the only way to have access would be to change the settings, to go back up, and let's say we can select network address translation or bridged. Let's just select this for right now, network address translation. And on server we're going to need to bring eth0 down and then back up. Okay, now you see the netted address here, .23.128. Now if you need to update your system, sudo aptitude update, and it updates your system. And I kind of did this a little backwards. Let me go to one of these other systems up here that's still on the virtual network, host-only network, and let's see what happens if we try to do an update. And it's trying to connect, and it's 19% because it's looking at these files on board, and it can't connect. So we can hit Control C, and over here it couldn't connect either. And so remember, all you have to do is to make sure you go up and you change your VM settings to network address translation, for example. Let's go ahead and let's set this back to VMnet 2, and we're back to where we started. Sudo ifdown eth0, sudo ifup eth0, and we're back to .130. What we've demonstrated here is how to set up a host-only based network that allows you to practice your networking skills on a host-only environment.